Alright, how is everyone doing? My name is Dave Donahue, the guitar coach, and in this video I'm going to run through a few things to consider when looking for a guitar to buy. So I was in a lesson yesterday with students, and what happened was it was a lesson of 3 students, private lesson, and all of a sudden I got asked, well, I'm thinking about getting a guitar for Christmas. Do you have any suggestions? And the thing was, like, my opinion is only my opinion, and it's based on what I prefer. Of course, there are some models of guitar that are really good, and there's other ones of them that aren't that great at times. But I was more interested in letting the students know what they might consider themselves when they're looking for a guitar. So the first thing was, now this can be dollars, this can be euros, it can be whatever. I was going to say hens, but the barter days are gone. So, euros, how much are you thinking about spending? So first of all, if I said, well, 200 euro. Think about spending 200 euro on a guitar. The next thing then is all of a sudden, all my options, I know there's a category to put them in. I know there's a category of things that I can look for and a category of things that I don't look for. So I won't be browsing for like 400 euro guitars now. And that eliminates the danger, which I can see happen for younger kids, where they're looking for things and all of a sudden if they open a magazine and it's a flat, or online of course, we're gone way beyond the days of magazines. They open it up and all of a sudden they're trying to figure out, well, what one are they looking for? And that's where the 400 euro one might work that well. Now, let's say the guitar you're looking for is worth 200 euro. That's the one you're looking for. I tend to look 30 euro or $30, whatever the currency is, each side of it. Because although I did say, well, you know what, I wouldn't go near the 400 euro guitars or the 500 ones if that's what you're looking for. 230, for the sake of 30 euro extra, well, you could get a whole different type of guitar if that's the one you're looking for. Now, there's a fundamental difference between settling on 200 and bumping it up to 230. Rather than doing what I used to do years ago, where I'd go, I'll look for ones that are 230. Then I began looking at ones that were 260, and I kept going up until I got to 300. So set a main figuring point, let's say 200, then take a glance at one for 230, and 170 is also useful. Price isn't necessarily an indication of a really good guitar. So you could find a guitar that's worth 170 euro and it would be better at times than a guitar that's 200 euro. That's another consideration. So now you have your price point set, and of course if you're shopping online you can set it, of course, and then dip it down the way as well, like sort by price descending. I think you can select. So that's the first thing, the price. That's the bracket within all your other decisions are based. Number 2. How are you happy with your purchase? So with this class, I love teaching groups because everyone thinks differently and everyone behaves differently with how they do things. So for example, I said to one student, how would you be happy with buying a guitar? And they said, I'd have to play it. So straight away now, they'll have to go to a brick and mortar store and try out the guitar. So I started giving suggestions to places in town near where I teach, or even places in the wider vicinity of Ireland. So that'd be number 1. Try it out. Now, I had another student then who kind of looked and they went, well, I'll have to try it out. Just reviews. They were looking for reviews. And this is where I'd ask you to begin to think about how you rather look for things. And whether it's guitars, or whether it's a book or DVD or whatever it is, everyone has their own criteria of how they buy things. So for some, you'd have to try it out. You have to have it in your hands and know it's good. For others, it would be reviews. But not only reviews. There'd be a number of stars involved. To get clear on that, how many stars would there be involved in a guitar that you'd be happy buying? So we'd say for this person, it could be 4. 4 and above. But another important question was, I asked them, well, okay, so you see one with 4 stars. Do you have to read the reviews? Or is there a number of good reviews that it has to have for you to go, oh yeah, that's a good guitar? And the thing about that was, I think it was 20. It wasn't good enough for, we'd say, a handful of people to give it 4 stars. It had to be 20 plus. And again, these are things to consider, where somebody mightn't look at any reviews and just go and try a guitar out. So, we've tried out, we've looked at the reviews. Please tell me I'll spell this right. Kind of wish this board had a spell checker. So, yeah, I think that's right. Influencers. I was explaining to the kids that, like, back in the day before the word influencer was even a term, we were getting influenced, and it was by the likes of, we'd say, Steve Vai in a magazine. I remember looking at a magazine once and seeing Steve Vai with this brand new pedal, and all of a sudden I wanted that pedal. Or seeing Joe Satriani use a new type of strings, and I'd go, God, I wonder what those strings are like. So if the kids had any favourite guitarist, I'd ask them, well, what gear do they use? And if they're using a guitar, do they have an affordable model for you? And the prime example I used was good old Slash. I said, Slash's guitar, one of them, costs a couple of grand to buy. And straight away they went, oh geez, that's a lot. I said, I know, it's a lot when you're like in school, and it's a lot anyways if you don't get enough use out of it in many different things. But I said, is this a guitar? So I pulled up a Slash model. I think it was €230. And the thing about that was, they were like, why would Slash make one for €230? I said, well, think of it this way. We'd say if he had a model, the Gibson model, he'd won for €2,300. Well, that only applies to people who buy it for that much. And he could sell 10 of those cheaper guitars, or more reasonable guitars, to younger folk or whoever, and still get that amount. So it makes perfect sense that a lot of those big artists do create more affordable products for people, whether it's pedals, whether it's strings, guitars, pickups, things like that. So all of a sudden it began opening out this whole spectrum of options, rather than going to the mindset of it going, well, I'm looking for a guitar and I'm lost. Price, dip each side of it, just a nudge ahead. Don't go too far ahead, otherwise you set a new sort of mark point. Then find out how you're best convinced before you buy it. What makes you the happiest before you buy it? Could be you need to try it out, which means animation time. That's my house impression. But we're going to pretend it's a music store. So, oops, there we go. Then, reviews, check out reviews. And by the way, this reviews one is important. If you're into reviews, then perhaps a site that does really good reviews, like Amazon, would have very full-on reviews with star ratings. And not only that, how many people found that review helpful? You could have a 5-star rating, but people might say this wasn't helpful. So that's important too. Oh, and the other thing, of course, YouTube. Years ago, when I used to be buying pieces of gear, years ago when I was a teenager, it used to be I'd read it in a magazine and maybe I'd go to the store and try it out. Or maybe even there would be a review in a magazine. There wasn't the wide internet widespread of everyone reviewing things. But nowadays with YouTube, all my video gear that I got and all my audio gear, I went on YouTube. That's how I'd be happiest making a purchase, that I've seen somebody try it. I've seen it in action online, in fairness. I haven't tried it myself. The person gives a review of it. And maybe other people have typed beneath, which is a former review saying how helpful they found the product or what they thought of that person's YouTube video on it. And also, I'm drawing a blank here. There was one other thing. Also with YouTube, there's the fact that if there's somebody you like, basically an influencer, then that can make you happier about your purchase as well. Like for example, for me it's Tim Ferriss. I don't know if anybody out there watches Tim Ferriss. If you're into Tim Ferriss, pop a comment below. Love to have a chat about it. Tim Ferriss, when he recommends something, it's highly dodgy territory for me because I know he's tried it and I know he's tested it thoroughly. Like, I think there's a 6-month test period he'll do before he'd have a product as an ad on his podcast. And for me, that screams out, well, Tim Ferriss has done 6 months of tests, of trying it out. He's given it a good review, and I'm happy with that because he's definitely somebody that I'd be influenced by. And all of a sudden, the price range then, that would be a consideration. Like, there's a Peloton bike that, geez, I think costs thousands, and I don't need to spend thousands on a bike. So that's where it would stop then. And that's why I list this as the first one. Price dictates a lot of things. For younger students, it can create this thing. And by the way, I use younger students here, just, you can use this as an adult too. But the thing is, it can come down to the money. And if you do, what happens if you do see €260 guitar and you really want it and you don't know what to do? Well, it's this simple at times. And in my private lessons, I tend not to say this too much. I said it the odd time just because I don't want students going home to their parents saying, Dave says we have to sell stuff. Declutter. I'd use that word first. I've asked some students in the past, is there anything you're not using? Is there any piece of music here? And I like to keep it in the realm of music here even. Is there any piece of music here you haven't used in a year? And if they go, yeah, actually. I said, are you planning on using it next year? And if they go, no. It's like, well, somebody out there at the minute may be trying to buy something and they can't afford it. And they're looking at the second-hand market, which second-hand or used is another term. They're looking at the second-hand market or the used market, and you could sell that piece of gear that you have, earn a bit of extra money and afford the one you really, really want. That's an idea. Another slant on that, let's flip the coin around here and say, check out the second-hand and used market. You'll definitely get it cheaper. Something that's 260 could be €200. And that is a basic outline on buying a guitar and ways that you could be convinced that you'll be happiest buying one. And here's the other thing as well. Let's say you buy one and in the end, you're just not happy with it. That's where the used market comes in as well. So I hope you found this of value. I'd love to hear your own comments below. Just post them and I'll catch you very soon.